Hello, my friends. It's your boy, Garrett J. White, the founder of Wake Up Warrior and the CEO of DKW Styling, and I'm here with the co-host of the Date Your White podcast, Danielle K. White.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, ¿cómo estás? All right, so anyways, welcome to the Date Your White podcast. We are literally on date night again. I've got my coffee in hand.
I was trying to get my
Coffee
phone.
is in
I was
hand.
gonna do like a 2-second live, but
2-second live has turned into a 50-second live.
there.
It's too
not,
live.
It's not 50 seconds.
Hello, live.
What's our topic? That's
All right,
my
our
husband.
topic is communication.
You know what?
We're going to be on the topic of communication.
This is usually our best show.
Usually our best show.
Usually our
But there's a
best.
time that it's not our best show.
No, I think we're pretty good at communicating.
We're pretty good at communicating. All right,
Yeah.
so here's the deal. We're going to talk about this show if you're here for the very first time, which I'm actually proud of ourselves because we launched. I built this podcast studio a year ago.
It's kind of like an insane asylum. It's got
A
these
year
cool
ago.
padded walls.
I built it a year
Every time
ago.
we come in here, I'm like, can we get out? Is the
No,
door locked?
you
Why
like
is there
it.
padded walls?
You like it.
Why is it blue and black?
I think you have other
it
thoughts
was-
inside this podcast
I
studio
for
besides
sure
get me out of here.
I'm not going to have sex in a padded wall room.
We've never had sex in here.
But that's where your mind always goes.
We should have sex in the podcast
It would be
room.
weird if it was a white padded wall, because then it would be weird.
Would you ever have sex in the podcast studio with me? Yes or no?
There's nowhere to have sex in this
There's
office.
nowhere to have sex. You act like we're stuck in a small shoebox. Like there's plenty
I
of room.
feel like there's
Like chairs, there's floor,
you're
there's
giving
padded
yourself
areas.
a lot of credit.
You act,
I'm a small girl,
you
but
are a
you
small girl. This is not like it's not like we're stuck in some like small tiny podcast
It's-
studio.
I swear to God, it's the smallest box you've ever seen. It has padded walls, like you have to shimmy to get
Is
into
this
our
any
spot.
smaller than your
If
closet?
you guys want to see what we look like live,
this
you can
smaller-
go to dateyourwifenow.com where you can see all of our videos, plus us talking and what we look like, and the crazy padded blue and black wall, for God's sake.
Yeah, but listen, is it smaller than your closet? Yes or no?
No, my closet is 3 times the size
Your
as it
closet
should be.
is all right. It is a little bit bigger. But we've had sex in your closet
Oh my God, this is not. We're talking about
with the mirror? You know
communication.
the way I like it with
Okay,
the mirror.
okay, I'm
We've
sorry.
not, but that's
okay.
not happened here.
Okay, this is not a classy black and blue room. I can't have. I'm sorry, you got to wine and dine me.
Oh, I did, and then I brought you to the
at
podcast
least
studio.
Or at least give me a backdrop of shoes to look at.
Oh, your phone literally fell off the balcony.
That's a good comment.
It fell off the balcony. All right, so
Okay.
listen, we're gonna say goodbye to your friends
Okay,
on
bye.
live stream.
Bye.
Hello, live streams on friends on the
Okay,
Instagram.
Hey, friends.
Ciao,
Hey,
sayonara.
This is a live. This is called the
See
live.
you later.
You
This is
push
the live.
live
Check it out on
button.
Tuesday. All right, so the live stream audience is officially gone, and you dropped your entire live studio audience on their faces.
I did. I was so excited about shoes, looking at shoes while having sex.
Do you look
Just
at the
kidding.
shoes when we're having sex in the closet?
I'm not gonna. How honest do you want
I
me
want
to
you
be right now?
You say that every
Well,
time. Why don't
listen,
you be totally honest?
Okay,
Do you
so
look
if
at
we're
your
talking
shoe?
about
Do you look at shoes?
communication, every girl out there, you know, you have to put one in for the team or like the checklist sex. Like some days you're just like, hey, like I'm putting one in for the team. But when I do that, I try to make it like fun and creative, and have a mirror in my closet and a bench, and I know that if
It's awesome.
it's a good view for both. Let's just
It
say
is
that
awesome.
way. One way he's got the mirror, and one way I got my wall of shoes. So.
So you're looking at your
Both
shoes during sex
ways.
for real.
Well, I'm facing my shoes. I'm
But
not.
are you like focusing on the shoes? Like you thinking, oh, there's some Louis Vuittons. I'll
Well,
wear
no,
those today.
but usually when girls are having their get it done sex, they're usually thinking about their task list that they have to do that day. So
Is that what you're doing? You're thinking about a task list?
Yes, and any girl who says she's
In
not
my
is
mind,
lying.
you're not thinking about
I
a
know,
task list.
and
In
that's
my
why-
mind, you're
exactly.
thinking about me.
Exactly, and that's why I'm like, well, I can't you don't want to go into that checklist, like put it in the team, like and have the guy know
The vaginal
that.
masturbation.
No, but I'm like, hey, we
Yeah.
both, like, I get that, guys, like, sometimes it connects you more if you have those quick moments, I guess you could say, like, but at the same time, you don't want the guy to feel weird, so I find that the mirror in the closet seems to be...
It's amazing.
It seems to be good.
And it's
so.
visual content. It's like
Yeah.
stimulus for days.
Yeah, I know that. I know
It's
that
great sex plus
yes.
in your mind.
Yes, because I think...
It's like sex that just
I think, and
continues
tell
in your
me if
mind
I'm
for
wrong,
a
but
week.
I think that guys, if you give them visual content,
Yes.
they can go longer in between. I'm just putting it out there for ladies. And then if they see a hot girl...
Have you noticed this?
Like if
Have you
have,
noticed if I have good content, I go, I don't ask for it as much?
I think you have content, so you can go to the content in your mind. Maybe.
Let's
I
be
don't know.
straight. I don't ask for it ever.
You don't. You don't ask for it, but
I don't ask
you
for
go
it.
in shutdown mode.
But I don't ask for it.
Well, no, you did for so many years.
Yeah, but I haven't in the last 3. I don't ask for it last
I
year.
know, but now there's this weird space where when you don't ask, I'm like, oh shit, because I can feel you like disconnect. I think that happens with.
But I don't become an
with
asshole.
age.
I don't become an asshole about it.
No, but there's still like this disconnection, and I think
There
that,
is a disconnect.
I think that men want sex and women want sex, but more than anything, women want like attention, and if they feel like you're kind of withdrawing, you're just like, hey babe, and they lose feeling like wanted, just like men want to be wanted. Then they're kind of like, what the fuck's going on? Like women want attention, they want to feel like they still got it. You know what I mean?
I'm not a woman. I don't know what that means.
I know, but I'm
as
just
a guy, I
like
know what that
sharing.
means.
Like that's how women are. Like we want to be able to like walk past our guy and he like can't not. He's like shit. Like you gotta always keep that going even in married life. It's warm in this podcast studio.
Are you warm in here?
Well, yeah. I'm surprised you're not warm. You're in a full on jacket
And I'm drinking
and
a hot coffee.
I know. I'm toasty, but I'm in like a turtleneck sweater thing.
I think it's because we were talking about sex.
All right, it's not sex.
All right,
Let's
so we're gonna move to
on.
communication.
I mean.
Now, listen, communication itself, we talked about a lot of different angles on this over the year of 2018. And one of the things I'm going to communicate to is the creation of something new as a couple. Now, a year ago, and we're going to actually make this about the podcast. A year ago, I came to you and I said, we're going to do a podcast called Date Your Wife. I actually bought the domain dateyourwife.com.
You know what? I saw us doing this when we moved to California. Do you remember? I remember we were like driving up to Ladera and we were looking at houses and we were like joking around and we were in the car and I was like, oh my God, if people could hear our conversation, we're so cool, we're so funny. But I felt like we always had really good conversations. And I think I was like foreshadowing or like seeing it like, I don't know. And then when you're like, we're doing a podcast, and I was like, cool.
You weren't so about the podcast in the beginning.
That is a lie. I've never been.
Were you for it?
Yeah, you were like,
were
we're
for
doing
it?
a podcast, and I was like, okay, yeah.
1 year ago today, I had this podcast studio. It was under construction. Right now, it was almost done.
I don't know if I knew
1
it
year
was gonna
ago.
have black and blue walls. I'm gonna go turn on the air.
You're going to go turn on the air. All right. Well, I'm going to continue to tell the story about the podcast wall. It's the first time in my wife's life she's turned on the air conditioning.
Ooh, sweaty.
I like that you're sweaty. All right. So a year ago, I come to Danielle and I say, listen, we're going to launch 5 podcasts at once. We're going to launch Date Your Wife, Warrior Wealth, Warrior Week, Warrior on Fire, which I'd been doing for a number of years. So I guess only 4. Was there a 5th? I don't think there was a 5th. So anyways, I contacted our contractor and I said, listen, I want you to build me a podcast studio. So he did. And that's a podcast studio we're currently shooting in. And we have shot 50-some, 48, 49. I don't know. We're coming up on like 53. I don't know what fucking number this is.
I bet we're 50.
We're 50 plus.
No, we're not 50 because BMS was at 48 this week.
All right, so we're getting close to 50 podcasts.
Yeah.
50 podcasts of at least 30 minutes apiece. That means that we have done 25 hours of communication.
It's true. It forces us to communicate at least once a week.
Yeah, true, but here's the thing, though. Like, we created something to create the conditions of communication.
Don't you think that I feel like we're just a smidge more connected because with
Not a
this
smidge.
podcast?
I would say larger than a smidge.
Well, it's almost like forced, not forced. It's kind of like forced communication, but it's almost like when we first started communicating in front of a therapist and you have like a sounding wall. So now we have listeners and viewers. So we try and stay real and honest with you guys, but at the same time, it's not going to get as dark and ugly as sometimes it would at home. There's been a few podcasts where I wanted to throw my shoe at Garrett and walk out. But
on the 8th, let's go back to the Valentine's podcast, which we'd been 3 months in. You almost walked out of the show.
Well, you
and
know
then
what?
I slid the diamond earrings over.
No, you've gotten better. In the beginning of the podcast, I always felt like you were like running me over and and I don't know. And I was just like,
really?
Yeah, and I was just like, I'm kind of fucking over it. Like, I don't want to. I'm not your doormat. Like, if we're gonna do this podcast, that's great. But I would bring up points of conversation and you would get triggered, and one of your defense mechanisms is being triggered is you just like want to like floor me and talk over me, and I'm like, I don't do well with that. I'm kind of like, I don't care. You don't want to talk about this? If you're just going to keep talking over me, then we can't have a conversation.
But do you realize that this, like, here's the thing the principle I want you to get if you're listening to the show, is that you must create the conditions for communication. Like, that's the
Sure.
principle. You must create the conditions for communication.
It could be like date night without other couples, because I see that a lot is like people on the weekends, they want to get out and socialize and relax and drink. But number one, if you drink too much on date night, you don't socialize. And then
Yeah.
there's been times where we drank too much and then it actually like spikes an argument. And then
it's the
like more-
opposite.
or it's like I fall asleep at 9 and I'm like, I don't fucking care. So you have to be careful, because it's like at one point you want to relax. So it's cool to have a drink or two, but you don't want to like take it past that, or that can create more spice. And then the other thing that I see with a lot of couples and a lot of friends that we go out with and stuff, like they're always looking to have date night with friends.
3 other couples.
Which is cool. Like, I even have to remind myself, like, Danielle, you need to have friends. Like, I find myself, like, hanging out with Garrett, my family, my kids, working, and that's enough for me. And then I'll be like, oh, you should be social. And so,
You know what, though? I enjoy going to those, but, like, the thing I don't enjoy...
I just don't like to be on, let's be honest.
Well, listen, I can go once a month. Like, if
Yeah, like
it's
once
more
a
than
month.
that, I'm
Yeah,
like, it's too
fun
damn
once a
much.
month. Yeah.
Well, because here's the reality. We go out with like 2 or 3 couples, even if we're good friends with them. You and I don't spend any time together.
No, we don't. That's what's weird, is it's literally like the girls hang out and the guys hang out. And then if the guys and the girls talk, it's like the same conversation of like, oh, it's 2 girls, oh, guys, oh. And it's like you're like team girls and team guys. And I just get to the point where I'm like, it's fun, but I get to the point where I like every weekend I could not do that. No.
But this is literally what most... So you have couples that don't go on date nights at all, which means they don't have time away from their kids to communicate. Second piece is you have couples that do go out, but they only go out with friends or family members. And so then when you go out, you can never have like really deep, real conversation with you two, because you've got this other people there with you. And then third, you have this situation actually going out together with just you two, nobody else. Right? So, like the podcast, I'm going to come back to the podcast studio. So, the podcast studio was a favorable condition that we created. So, if I have to create the conditions for communication, then favorable conditions are created. What does this mean? This means that I've actually created the circumstance inside of which me and my spouse can actually have communication that is distinct and different than regular day
I
life.
would say that I'm really generalizing here, but I would say that oftentimes you lose that spark or that chemistry based on lack of communication. And you wake up, and I even feel it with us, like you wake up and you're like, almost things kind of feel awkward. You're just not awkward, but almost just like, you're like, you have this you have this cordialness towards them, but there's not that spark. I don't know how else to describe it. And so when you get to that place in a relationship, that's kind of weird too, and that's just based on lack of communication. And I feel like when we have good communication, when we have date night and we can reconnect, I don't know how else to describe this without sounding cheesy, is just you just feel like like warm and fuzzy and like, oh, I like you again. Do you know what I mean? And
I feel that tonight with you.
yeah, see?
Do you feel that with me?
Yeah, so that's why
I do.
that's what I'm saying is like, but then like even like this last week we were working a ton and we've had a ton going on, and it gets to the space where you're just like, hey, high five on the way out. You know what I mean? And there's nothing there. And if you did that over a period of time, you literally could look at a person and be like, how do I love you? I'm not attracted to you. I have nothing to talk about with you. But it's because you lost all forms of communication. It doesn't matter how much time you spend with a person if you can't have that communication. And that's what I see in our own relationship that can go south, but also keeps us on the right track as well. And people say all the time, oh, marriage is hard work. Marriage is hard work. Marriage is consistent work. It's not necessarily hard. It's about the small, consistent things on a weekly basis that make a huge difference. So marriage is only hard work if you let it kind of like, if you're not consistent. Work is hard. Success is hard if you let it go. Anything in life can be hard if you're not consistent. And so consistency is actually easy. And when you fall away, that's when it gets hard.
That was really smart.
I'm a smart girl.
So we created the podcast studio, which I'm not going to lie has probably been like the best therapy for us of all time. Like we had therapy and then we had this. We had the podcast. So we appreciate you guys here in 2018, like listening to us talk through our lives and putting our vulnerability on the stage. But this podcast studio was a condition that was created. It required a couple things. It required time, it required energy, and it required money. Okay, it required time, energy, and money. So here's what I'm going to have you consider. No matter what it is that you're creating, if you're trying to create conditions inside of your relationship for better communication, if you and your spouse are trying to create this, or if you want to, or maybe you haven't even considered you wanted to do it, But you're looking at this and saying, you know what, I should probably fucking do this. I should probably create better conditions for communication. If you're a guy, I'm going to talk to you for a second. Here's the deal. If you're not getting laid, if sex is not happening, I can guarantee you that what is also not occurring is communication. Like there's not direct, intimate communication. Don't mean sexual communication. I mean just like the ability to communicate and connect. So if you have not invested time, if you've not invested energy, if you've not invested money to create those conditions, then you also can't be entitled or think you're entitled or feel like you're entitled to the results that come through sex, through connection, through creation as a couple. If you've been unwilling to invest time, you've been unwilling to invest energy, and you've been unwilling to invest money.
It goes both ways, though, too, because I feel like for women, we get to this place where we kind of get a little bit resentful and we have to like warm back up to our men. And so I would say it goes both ways because there's times for me where I'm feeling like disconnected and I'm feeling like fuck you and I'm feeling like not heard and I'm feeling like I don't have any time and attention and I'm feeling like the victim in the relationship. And the last thing I want to do is like go have sex with you. Do you know what I mean? But I also have learned the power of like being like just fucking get it out of the way. And I just like approach it, and I don't approach it as like, okay, let's sweep the floors. We had an episode where I talked about like
sweep the floor sex.
Yeah, I go into it like I'm like, hey, we're doing this. Like, yeah, come on. And I think that kind of breaks the ice. And I had to come kind of get to this place where I'm like, if something could break the ice so simple as like just like having sex and having fun with it, like why would I not do that? Because in the end, it will actually serve me. And one thing I always ask myself, and I share this on a lot of podcasts, is I think that people's like ego or whatnot gets in the way, and they're like, oh, it doesn't benefit me. It doesn't benefit me. Like, blah, 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 I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that. And in the reality, sometimes doing little things actually does benefit us. So when I'm looking for a certain result, whether it's in my business or in my relationship or whatever it is, and I'm finding resistance to do whatever I need to do to get to that place, I have to take a step back and ask myself this really, really simple question. Danielle, how are you going to get the results that you want in your relationship or your business? Okay, now to get these results, what do you need to do to get there? And sometimes it's like, well, you guys are kind of feeling separated or whatever. You should probably have sex and get that off the table and see if that opens up a conversation and then kind of go from there. Same with business. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do in business and whatnot? So I find we want to hold back, but it really like hurts us rather than gets us what we want. So if you ask yourself in business or relationship, Danielle, Garrett, how do I get what I want? And when you look at it like that and flip it, you'll be like, holy fuck. And you realize like, you're like, oh, cool. I know what I want. I know what I'm going after. And you can manifest the results that you want.
So let me ask you a question. Why do you feel it is that many women are not able to communicate what they want
I think that women are pretty good
their
at
partners?
Communication.
I think that's inaccurate.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like you're good at communication for a guy, but I feel like...
Yeah, but I would say that most women don't communicate what they want. They're more passive-aggressive in my experience. We train hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. We're around thousands of women. Like most women do not directly speak about what they want. Why?
I don't really know. I think that I can be passive-aggressive, but I also realize that doesn't really serve me. I don't know. Huh. I've always been. I'm a very direct person. I feel
But there were times you were not that direct.
No, I think I was direct intent to jab you because I was pissed. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you were kind of a jabber for a while.
Yeah, it was like, you're a fucking dickhead, and I would just you would
say shit just to be rude.
I was just flat out rude. Like I'm direct, but sometimes I was direct and I would say stuff just to be rude. But it's because I was feeling just like isolated, alone, like. I just felt like that was like my way of like being like, instead of making the situation better, I'd make it worse. And I think that I was like, well, that's not really getting me what I want either. And I think that happened for both of us.
Yeah. I
mean, I can only speak for myself, but I think that after so many years of like having the same fucking fight, I was like, okay, so we're either going to both choose in and figure this out, and in this choosing in, there's a level of submission on both of our parts, or we're just going to fucking get divorced and move on.
Right.
And I was like, why are we fighting? Like, obviously, we both want to be here, so what is not clicking here? And I think it was like this give and take from both of our sides, and it was like you give and I give, and you give and I give. And it wasn't like this mutual party of like, rainbows and flowers. It was literally like sometimes you give and sometimes I give, and that's how our relationship works. And being consistent with that over time we know our formula now, I feel like.
Right.
And so knowing our formula, for me, I feel like even though times can get chaotic and crazy, and I think that women want to feel like safe all the time. But now that I've like found our formula and realized that I'm part of the formula and making it work, I've also come to this. I've found my own safety and security inside of our relationship. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I think that women look to men for safety and security, whether it be financially or emotionally or whatever else. But in reaching for that safety and security, you have to look inwards and realize that you can create you're part of creating your own safety and security inside of that relationship. I'm fucking on one tonight.
You are literally on one. Like this is like deep. This is deep wisdom being dropped right here.
I'm just tapping into my 65-year-old self.
You're doing well. Well, your 65-year-old self is like hot as shit and also dropping some serious bombs. So I'm going to bring it back to these three things. If you're going to number one, if you're going to create communication, you must be willing to create the conditions for communication. Right? Favorable conditions mean that in the conditions you're in, there is favorability for communication. That means you're going to have to invest three things. We're going to invest time, we're going to have to invest energy, and we're going to have to invest money. At some level, I'm talking about millions of dollars. I'm going to talk about hundreds of thousands. It could be $5. Whatever it is, there's going to have to be some sense of investment of time, energy, and money in order to create the conditions for communication. So many men will not invest the time, they will not invest the energy, and they may invest the money. But if you miss the energy and the time, you don't end up winning. If you invest the time, but you don't invest the energy or the money, you don't win. If you invest the energy, but you don't invest the time and you don't invest the money, then you don't win. So, like, there has to be this trifecta of all three.
I think that I don't know because I'm not a guy, so I can't speak totally freely. But
well, speak as freely as you want, and I'll correct you if you're wrong.
Okay. So I would imagine that like many men that like there's like this role that they're the provider, and so they think, well, like I'm providing, I'm paying the bills, but I liked how you said that. Like you can't just provide. Like that doesn't create enough for women. That doesn't create enough safety, security, love, whatever. Like you can't just provide. And at the same level, women can't just you can't just put out and have sex. Like even though that's kind of like cliche and it's like women are after money and men are after sex, that's true to a level because it validates what they need. But at the same time, that's not satisfying long term. And this game is built in a way where it's like, hey, here's the spark, here's the connecting piece. But guess what? There's a lot more to it. And I think that when you fall short in those areas, that's when you don't have the whole picture figured out. And so I'm not saying we're perfect, but I feel like you literally have to touch base on each one of those pieces in order to make a successful relationship work.
So a guy knows in sex. Like he knows. Like if let's say sex was money. Right? So that was the investment. Sex was money. So you've got the investment of money in the form of sex. You've got the investment of time, which is actually getting naked and having sex. But if there's no energy, guys feel wanting still. It's weird. Like you'll feel totally empty. There's still an orgasm, but you feel empty. Yeah. Same thing if a guy invests money and he invests time in his family, but he's not present energetically.
In the end, both people want to be wanted. Like the women want attention, safety, security. They want to be wanted. And in the end, men want lots of sex and they want...
Which is want to be wanted.
And they want to be wanted. And so, but that's... Like, what is so wrong with wanting to be wanted? That's how you create that attraction and that chemistry.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think a lot of people have a problem with that.
Well...
I had a problem with that in a while. I couldn't even admit that I wanted to be wanted. I think I spent I'm 42 years old. I don't think I was probably until I'm 37, 38 I could acknowledge
maybe
that.
It's because people go into marriage and under those conditions and they you wouldn't get married unless you kind of wanted each other at some level, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some attraction.
Actually,
there is a lot of sexual attraction.
No, there's some people that get married and there's probably none and they get married for other reasons.
I don't know how you can get married for other reasons.
Really?
Have no sexual attraction. I'm sure people do it.
I know people do it.
But that's super weird. That's true. I literally had a whole lineup of people in my mind.
It was like...
I guess I got married. But that's not true because a guy married for sex.
Even what if they're older?
That's what he meant. He married for sex. He wanted to have a naked, sexy body next to him.
Do guys lose a little bit of that?
A little bit of mojo?
Yeah.
Some guys do. Their testosterone goes down. They lose mojo.
That's what I'm saying. So is it kind of like, do they get the same?
I think they get, I think it.
You don't know because you're not.
I'm 42.
Yeah,
I'm old.
You don't know. You're not that old.
I'm old. Compared to 22, I'm 20.
No,
I'm 42.
But
I'm double the age.
I've heard, like, my sister doesn't listen to this podcast, so I can throw her under the bus. But her husband's older than her by a good, like, 17 years. And she's like, I'm the one always going after it. I'm like, really? Like,
You know what, though? There's a lot of like couples we know that are 15, 20 years apart.
yeah.
And inside of it, some of the couples, the men are still after it, and some the
I
men are
don't know.
not after
I
it.
don't know how that works. So I was just wondering, like, when guys
I know
get
that
older.
as you get older, your testosterone levels go down. Most guys don't get them checked, and so their sex drive and their ability to hold
Do
an
you
erection
think yours
goes
has
down.
gone down? Can I answer it for you?
Sure.
I think it has a little.
You think?
Yeah. You literally, like, the wind would blow, and I was like, he's ready to go at any given time. And now I'm like, man, I really have to work for this a little.
I think do you want me to tell you what's happened, I think, the last 2 years?
What?
Surfing.
That's good. You found
No, I'm serious. I have sex surfing every
you
day.
have sex on the waves?
Yeah, I make love to the ocean. She and I have deep.
I have lots of sex
committed
other
sex.
ways than
You have sex with Louis Vuitton.
I do not.
You have sex with online shopping.
No, I don't.
I'm telling you right now, like, I swear to you, surfing has, like, satisfied this level of.
It's like a hobby. It's something that you enjoy.
It's more than a hobby. It's something. It's satisfied
like,
a craving.
It's like a sport. It's like you enjoy it. Like there's something that you're like, like you're kind of passionate about. Like
Not kind of. I'm very passionate.
I always sound like I feel like I'm kind of superficial, but I even as young as I can remember, like I took like sewing lessons growing up. Like
You
my
love
sister,
fashion.
I love fashion and I love that shit. And so I don't know why.
You shouldn't feel bad about that.
No, but so I always feel like superficial because it's like I'm always like, I love clothes, but I can see like your surfing is like me online, like putting shit together. I buy a lot, but I don't buy a lot too. Like I like to just like, oh, that'd be cute with that. That'd be cute with that. Oh, she's cute. That's cute. Like that's I enjoy
I love
that.
working and I love surfing and I love you.
Oh,
And I love our kids. It's a lot of love in one place. All right, so we're going to bring the show to a close. Here is a summary of today's conversation. Okay, our principle for the day is simply this, which is you must be willing to invest to create favorable conditions for communication to exist. Here we use example, the podcast studio. I created the podcast studio. We've had almost 50 episodes between the two of us here in 2018, creating these podcasts. We have no plan on stopping. We're rolling into 2019 with a brand new upgrade to the way we do this. You can learn more about the videos, texts, etc. at dateyourwifenow.com. You need 3 things, though. You need time, you need energy, and you need money. My friends, figure out how you're going to do that this week. We're off. We're off to the rest of our date night for tonight. You guys have a great rest of your night, and we will see you guys next week.
Ciao.